as anything on there is Nakamura. But let's take a look and see what happened in the opening.
It looks like a scotch, and the players are not, you see, they're not used to that delay as they're playing instantly. And as you said, Jen, use it or lose it, and they're just playing really rapid fire instead of using all of their 3 seconds.
Well, they know the openings, though. Right now, they don't really need to use the 3 seconds to reassess anything. Obviously, Gary was convinced he was going to play this version of Scotch that he used to defeat Anatoly Karpov in their epic World Championship match. So
yes.
Clearly, Wesly was prepared for this line as well, and now Wesly giving quite a bit of pause as Gary has not used any time so far to get to this position.
Exactly. Well, in fact, there are two moves for Wesly, either d7, d6, or knight b4. There's just simply no other choice. Other moves are just strategically really terrible for Wesly. So d6, and White has an option of going, no, he must play knight b4, doesn't he?
Wow, he's just introduced this move, c5.
That looks really very strange move to my eyes. A very surprising decision by Wesly So. Queen e4 looks like an automatic. Yeah, Gary has played g3, by the way, and he was very quick. So this move c5 is not a surprise for Gary. He played it very quickly.
G3 is the Engine's #1 move, in fact. So Gary quite comfortable where he is and going for the big pawn formation, guarding his pawn with f4.
Exactly, bishop e7.
Yeah, Black has to get d6 in at some point, or his position is going to be
strategically
ugly.
busted.
Yeah, that's right, because not only will he have a weak pawn on c5, but Gary's pawns will simply roll.
And we've seen knight b4 now. Knight b4 looks like a stutter step from a move ago. I don't like this position offhand for Wesly.
I mean, there are some little tactical ideas in the position. Maybe you could move bishop back to b7, and then after bishop g2 and queen g2, there's something happening on d3. But, of course, Gary played bishop to d2, and now rook d8 by Wesly, still trying to get this d6 move in at some point. And knight coming to d3 sometimes.
Yeah, well, knight c3 is an automatic. Gary has played it. Gary now has ideas like bishop takes b4, knight d5 in mind. At some point, this big pawn wedge in the middle of the board, this pawn on e5 has to be dealt with, and either d6 or f6 is a necessity.
So Wesly has played the move castles, and now what about your idea of just taking on b4 and playing knight d5?
I like it. I don't like giving up the bishop right now. I'm thinking that castles, that knight on b4 is not running away anywhere.
Gary has a big lead on the clock, by the way. Look at that. He's been sitting there for about 30 seconds and still with a lead on the clock. So he's taking this right now as the moment when all the possibilities that he can control, he should study. And that exchange on b4 unquestionably is on his mind. But look at how quickly his clock is ticking down. After having that full minute on the clock, he's going down now very quickly to Wesly's time.
Intriguing. And let me just
critical position indeed. I mean,
big moment in the game.
Let me flash back over to our other board between the two
moves, and you see the move a3. Well, you kind of went quickly there, Yaz. If we can come to this big board, we saw the move in this position a3 happen for Gary. Well, excuse me, it was d5 that happened in this position. And then after a3, the move d4, and great trades happening in the middle here. The position has absolutely exploded. And after bishop takes, pawn takes, and bishop to b2, and the position has stabilized here with the two bishops, bishop dropping back to c8. And this is the position we have on the board right now.
Exactly. Castles, of course, had been played. Get the king into safety. And f7, f6, a big move by Wesly. Has he calculated accurately the consequences of e7, e6? Gary gets a pass pawn in the center of the board.
The Engines are saying that's a blunder.
Yeah.
That's a blunder according to the Engines. With bishop to d5 is the move that the Engines are giving. Bishop to d5, and then an actual sacrifice of the queen. And he had to sacrifice his rook in that position. He sacrificed and exchanged it, Wesly, by taking on d5 in this position.
Right.
Because he simply was going to lose material, and this is his counterplay chance that he is hoping for. And now Gary up in exchange, but he will lose back the pawn at least after bishop takes.
Not sure. I'm not sure he's going to lose the pawn because
he's not.
There's a queen c4.
There's a trade of queens
On
possible.
queen takes d5. There's a trade of queens when necessary. By the way, boldly pointing out the obvious, the rook on a1 is ready to munch that pawn on a7. This looks lost.
It is. The engines are saying that this is busted. Down a full exchange exchange for a pawn. Well, not even a pawn. It's a full exchange in this position. And never going to get back real compensation. His pawns on the queen side look awful. They're going to drop like flies. And Wesly is in a completely lost position. This would be a terrific start for the former world champion, Kasparov.
That's right. So if we play bishop takes e5, Gary can simply capture with the queen, and that's the big problem. If pawn takes, we get a lot of counterplay because a rook on f2 is pinned. We can maybe play bishop g4.
Exactly.
But no, this is
lost.
The
Indians are giving this one as done. Just no real moves. He is taking on e5.
Queen takes e5.
And queen takes
dominant retort.
That's right. Queen takes e5, and then we have to figure out some way to at least try to win that pawn back on d5. But
he's taking some time, by the way, in this position as Kasparov, but queen takes is the only move to maintain his advantage, actually. Pawn takes allows bishop to b7, and problems start with the counterplay.
On the long diagonal.
So Gary, of course, queen takes being the right move, and he has played it.
And Wesly trying desperately to get some counterplay with the move rook d8.
That came really fast.
Well, d6
though, we could play, yeah.
D6 is the engine's first move. D6
Wow.
looks strong, but Gary has instead played rook to d1. Not the top move, but still winning.
But it is Blitz, so we
No, I like this.
Still winning. No, it's not.
I'm sorry.
But he's played another way to try to exchange queens. That's the thing. A lot of the tactics we see here are trading queens but losing a pawn from queen to c4 to d6.
Exactly.
It's the exact same idea. Queen d4 because then all of your pawns are just going to drop off the board. So very thematic ideas here.
Interesting. Wesly after queen a5, inviting the move rook a1 by Gary. Gary instead plays rook d2, and Gary's idea is very simple. He just basically the rook on f2 is not working. He needs to bring that rook back to the e file. Maybe play a move like h3, king g2 h3.
But rook a1 looked so good.
It did.
But rook e8 by Wesly, trying to get a little counterplay on the back rank. Simply king g2, no worries.
Nice.
You don't have to worry about the back rank if your king's on the second rank.
True
Right?
that.
So
and h3, get that bishop out of there. Give your king some extra squares. And you know me, I love grabbing pawns. That a7 pawn looks delicious one day.
Well, the
Wesly's
clock times now, guys.
desperate.
The clock times, Gary, though he's up, he hasn't figured out exactly how to win yet. He has played the move h3, bishop back to f5, and now g4.
Excellent move. Excellent move. Get that bishop out of the way. By the way,
because we would have probably played queen to d7 to get a tiny bit of counterplay.
On
Stick
the
a
light
bishop on
squares.
h3.
You're
Maybe rook e1 could be annoying at some point. This looks harder. I mean, for an amateur, like playing this and allowing bishop e4, it looks uglier, but actually the
the king
here
is
on
going
the
to be
third
very,
rank is fine.
very safe. And by the way, having booted the bishop, two options now for white. d5, d6 is in the position, so you can play queen d5 and trade queens, as well as f5 and f6. And by the way, there's a pass pawn on the f file. Ooh.
c5, a little...
Queen f6, posting up, and it really looks
Just
killing now.
D6.
D6.
Just going for it. Is there any counterplay here for...
super powerful move.
It's a crushing position in f5, blasting through. What a dominant performance by Kasparov as f5 lands on the board. He's going to open up the whole king side. This is just crushing.
Epic.
No.
Checkmating.
I mean, if c3 just takes on g6 should be winning.
Exactly.
Takes
It's
d2,
a
queen
force
f7,
mate.
and queen h7 checkmate.
It's a force mate.
By the way,
Counterplay
Caruana
isn't
is up a
doing
pawn in
anything.
the other position as they're playing quickly. Not as sharp a position right now, but Caruana is up a pawn. But it's all about this game as Gary is showing his stuff coming out the gates quickly. Look at this position.
Queen e7 check. Queen
Total
takes
dominance.
f8. Queen e7. Queen takes f8 check. A huge threat in the position. I think it's going to be resigns, guys. I really
This
do.
is just...
There's nothing to do. And look at Gary grab the queen. He
Yeah.
grabbed the queen. He said, this one will be on the board any second.
Exactly.
This is just completely busting. Also, isn't d8 queens just a threat as well? Queen moving over to c5.
No, I think queen e7 check is the dominant threat in the
And he's
position.
just played queen d6 Queen d6 with all the threats. Trade queens and also sacrifice on f8. This is resignable. Only 10 seconds left. Wesly will probably resign on this move.
Yes,
and he has
has.
done so.
Bravo,
There
Gary.
is Gary. Gary getting up from the board. First game, big victory for Gary.